Well, as you said, I am one of the co-founders of We Build the Wall, and that project that did successfully complete a segment of border wall, I should say, and the one person who has gone to trial ended in a hung jury, so we're not sure where that stands. So I did want to point that out. But I do want to say, man, he is overpaying for his legal representation. I have a great lawyer. Josh Nass has been representing me as a friend. I don't have the same resources that Steve has. But he told me, you know, I had deep reservations about working with the committee because of partisan reasons and politics. And he told me this is the system. This is what you have to deal with. And the only thing you can do is comply and comply completely. And we followed that to the T. We took a lot of heat of it in part because Steve was out there saying, you know, giving the finger to the committee and saying that he wasn't going to cooperate in any way. And that caused a lot of backlash for those of us who decided to comply in full early, and that people were wondering why we were caving to this committee. Well, it's the law, and it's our duty as Americans. This is the committee we have. It was the Republicans' decision not to have people on the committee to cross-examine and to provide another format. So this is what we're stuck with. And, you know,
so to pick up on that point, I mean, you're basically saying that in that world, Mr. Bannon's claims that he would defy to the end made it harder for other people to both do and explain their cooperation. What do you think now that it looks like? I mean, do you think he's been consistent, or do you think he's sort of reversed himself?
Well, he's obviously run out of options. And, you know, when you can afford the white shoe law firms that Steve can afford, you often think that there's a different set of rules, because in America, if you can afford great lawyers, often there are separate rules for you and for other people. So, you know, Steve's found out, though, that in this instance, this committee's not messing around. The Department of Justice is not messing around on this. The actions that happened that day were serious. There's no denying it, the violence and the problems that it caused. So there's no getting around that. And Steve's finding that out the hard way, and you know, his 11th hour to try to fix it. You know, I hope the committee will take up this opportunity to talk to him and let him testify, and he can avoid any kind of jail. I listened to your last segment, and I think the panelists were pretty spot on. Steve is very shrewd. He's also very cautious. He's been navigating professional politics for a long time. He knows how to keep himself out of trouble. Yeah. So I hope that they'll take his testimony and that it'll be revealing.
Yeah, well, I think you make a fair point, especially because the process here is supposed to yield the information, as I emphasize, not target anyone for who they are or what they happen to believe, although legally he's put himself in quite a spot. So that's Bannon. I also want to ask you about what we expect to learn in tomorrow's hearing. Reading some reporting here about these Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. As mentioned, you were planning the rally that day, or you were one of the people. And the Select Committee now has testimony about contacts between militia group leaders, far-right political operatives, and, quote, rally organizers, which could play a role in establishing whether Trump oversaw a, quote, criminal conspiracy. Rally organizers there is a term that applies to what the committee believes the evidence shows are some of those people. You were on the inside, and you've talked to the committee about the split. Did you witness in any way other organizers working directly with those militia groups or having a plan to turn a rally into an invasion of the Capitol?
Yeah, well, we definitely saw some of the other organized. There was a definitive split between the group that put together the rally at the Ellipse in the morning, and the group who was planning a rally at the Capitol. In fact, the group that was putting on the rally at the Ellipse made several efforts to stop any other rallies from happening, specifically in part because the people who were organizing it were using vastly different rhetoric than we were using, far more revolutionary and violent. And
let me ask you, because I just have 30 seconds left. When you talk about that rhetoric, did you hear it before the 6th as storming the Capitol? Was it that precise, those folks?
It wasn't. It's hard to go back and look now and say what was rhetorical and what wasn't. What we remembered, though, is that tensions were extremely high, and we had an obligation to tamp those down to be able to present ourselves as a reasonable political movement. And there were people who were not following that, and they were the ones pushing people to go to the Capitol, and we were pushing our people not to participate that in any way. And of course, when Trump sent people to the Capitol, it felt like an affront to us that he had kind of taken that more radical side and made no sense to us. And it goes to my speech before. What we expected that day at the rally at the Ellipse was a presentation of detailed evidence. I listened to that clip of myself on January 5th, and in my head, I was so confident and sure that what was going to happen at the rally at the Ellipse was a presentation of evidence of the fraud that we'd been hearing about kind of in these rough ways. We didn't see that happen.